Hello everyone, I am Tanya Behel and welcome back to QuantUse. QuantUse is an initiative by students to popularize science and give a platform to showcase their endeavors in science. And today we have amongst us Dr. Omar Lopez Cruz. Dr. Omar got his M.Sc and Ph.D. from the University of Toronto. He has been associated with National Institute of Astrophysics, Optics and Electronics, Mexico, INAOE since 1988. He has been a visiting scientist at the Carnegie Observatories, Fulbright Scholar Caltech, IATE in Argentina and Bristol University. In 2015-16, he was appointed the Oliver L. Benediktson Endowed Chair of Astrophysics at the University of North Dakota. He is interested in the popularization of science using every media at his disposal, including radio, newspapers, etc. He is currently the scientific director of a book collection called the Citizen Scientific Library, where the works of distinguished scientists have been translated into Spanish. We welcome you, sir, today to QuantUse.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you. I already, I already have seen some of the work that you're producing and putting in your webpage. It's very, very nice work, and I was very impressed by the quality of the work that you're publishing there.
Thank you so much, sir. That's very kind of you. So first of all, first question that I would like to ask is, what motivated you to the field of astronomy and when did you decide so?
Okay, that everyone goes through periods like you get your insect period, you get your mammals periods and rock period. When I was 12 years old, was 13 years old, I look up at the sky in my native Baja California, which is a peninsula in the west of Mexico. There was a region where we didn't have electricity. So I look at the sky and it was the darkest sky possible and it was full of stars. And then I wonder what was up there. I haven't answered the question yet, but I have found a few answers in the way. So I decided to become an astronomer in a country like, in our country, like Mexico, the highest level, well, the medium level of education is secondary school, which is 6 years, 9 years of education that we get. That is the average education of all the citizens in Mexico. So in order to become an astronomer, I have to pursue, high school and then university and then postgraduate studies. I was a long way. And but the thing is that the curiosity was big, and I was very fixed in my idea that I wanted to be an astronomer. I didn't know how, I didn't know where, but I have the guidance here. I mean, it's something that I want to point out. I had very good teachers in my way. They were not all the teachers that I have, but some of them were key in the way that they told me what to do or where to go to gather the information that I needed. And that is very important. I think India and Mexico, we share many problems that are the same. I mean, we have poverty, we have fanatism. We can name a lot of points of that we have in common. And also, we also share the wonder for the universe. So if you want to pursue that, it was a long way. I had to travel from Baja, where I was born, to Mexico City. I have to live in that huge city of 22 million people that I didn't like at all. I suffered in that place. But that prepared me for my next steps, like to go into the world and seek better education. So I would say that has been a great adventure pursuing curiosity. Another thing that came and made my decision stronger was that in 1983, it was shown in Mexico, this program called Cosmos by Carl Sagan.
Yes.
I belong to that generation. I joined my peers in Canada when we were doing graduate studies that we said, oh, I became an astronomer because of Carl Sagan. So that is why it's very important, the popularization of science. And it's very important that you're doing. And I urge you to keep on doing and trying to reach the most people.
Yes, definitely. Coming to popularization of science, as you said, as we all know that you have been the editor, or you are the editor of Citizen Scientific Library. Can you please tell us something about it?
This is a new book. It has the same cover in English. It's called The Gene Machine, and
Okay.
it describes the how this Professor Venki Ramakrishnan won the Nobel Prize in 2009 for revealing the structure of a ribosome. So
Oh,
what we are doing, and it gets me sometimes. I get a little bit discouraged. Like if people, the scholarship of people is only secondary school, how would they be interested in reading these books? This book talks about, a great discovery. You need to go beyond ADN to understand these things. Even though the language is simple, how would people would become interested when they have um, more direct necessities, like getting a meal, and then how would they read? But I think in terms of a lifesaver, the book would wait for you when you're ready. It is there. It could be there for 20, 30, 100 years waiting for the reader. So the idea is to convey to people that the importance of science. And now that we are participating more stronger in our democracy, we need to take decisions that are based in science. So we need to provide the citizens with the information needed to decide on issues on energy, medicine, mathematics, in order to think well. So that is the idea behind this collection. We have made a very big effort to bring the best writers, Nobel Prize winners. This is the first time that this book is translated into Spanish, and for that, Professor Ramakrishnan, who he is from India actually, and
yes.
he now was the president of the Royal Society, the most prestigious scientific society, more ancient one. And I was surprised also that he knows Spanish because he was in the United States, and in order to distract himself from all the problems about the research, he decided to learn Spanish. He speaks some Indian languages, but in English, and he decided to go for Spanish, and he has a very good accent. So the thing is that what we want to convey is that the scientist is also a citizen. The scientist is a member of a society. So the scientist should not be looked like somebody who's distant or somebody who's not involved with the problems that are generated in our societies. So that is the idea of this collection. And we are very happy now because we got into 7 books now that are in the market, and they are being distributed in the main bookstores in Mexico.
Oh, that's wonderful, and that's a wonderful initiative. And definitely, scientists are also a part of the society, and having a book in the local dialect is certainly going to inspire young minds. So, there's a question that I've been meaning to ask since a very long time from the scientist of your repo, that how do you introduce yourself to a layman? Say you go to a party where you don't have anyone from the scientific community. So, how do you introduce yourself?
I can, I would say that I'm an astronomer, and now they would look at me and they would ask me about horoscopes, or if I can read hands or something like that, right? So I know about horoscopes, and I know about how to read hands, so I can enter through that. But
Oh,
then I would say, like, just to have a common ground. But then I would go and say, we study how the universe evolves, and how life was originated on Earth, and I would explain about the stars and things like that. I would try not to be, how do you call it? I would not like to look like a wise guy, because wise guys are pedantic. That's the word that I was looking for. I would try to be close to the person. It has taken me a long time to go back to my roots. I'm a person that comes from a society. I separated myself a little bit to study and focus on my career and things like that. But at the end, I'm also a person that belongs to the society, and belongs to a group of people that I can identify with. So if I take away all these things, all these degrees and things like that, I can talk to a person, and that's the thing that I like to do, and I think I can do it. I mean, look at my face; I look like an average Mexican. This is also very important, because your society is more advanced in that respect, because the movie stars represent the people of a society. Here in Mexico, our movie stars are mostly white and blue-eyed and all these things, are mostly Caucasian, right? So we need to be to make this contact that say that any member of our society can be a movie star, can be a scientist, can be a politician. And this, I think, is very important, to that we are a reflection of our society. So when I do that, I mean, I'm being helped by my looks, but the next step is that they don't get too scared when I say I'm an astronomer or a physicist, and I have a bachelor's in math and physics. And the next step is to say that, I suffer from the same problems that anybody else. So that's the way I say it. But it's very interesting that when I cross the border to United States, right? Here we have a problem with migrations. A lot of Mexican people go to United States, and they go illegally and all these things, right? So I go there, and they look at me, and they say, "Oh, there is another Mexican," right? It is probably is trying to stay here in United States and blah blah blah. But I see the change in their looks when I say that I'm an astronomer and I have a PhD in astrophysics and blah blah blah. So then they look at a different person. I'm no longer the average Mexican. I'm a different person. So you try to go through, and I said I don't like to be pedantic. I like to say that we share this. I had a big opportunity to 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 achieve higher education. It was all paid by Mexico, and I think it would be the same in India. Is the education here in Mexico is public, so I had never had to pay for my education all the way from kindergarten to university, and even when I went abroad, Mexico paid for my education there. So I had, I was a very lucky and fortunate person to achieve my dreams about studying abroad and studying astronomy, all being sponsored by the Mexican people.
wonderful, wonderful, sir. So next we took questions from our fellows from astronomy and astrophysics who are studying astronomy or astrophysics, and I would like to narrate some of them to you. So, what groundbreaking research outcomes do you see in the next 10 or 15 years in this field, or for that matter, 50 years in astronomy and astrophysics?
I said that in the previous talk that I gave, is general relativity will will achieve more successes in the next few years. It is becoming like it is the theory that explains most, in a better way, most of the phenomena in our universe. We in our education we're avoiding it, but we can no longer avoid it. So there will be new discoveries and new applications where we see the triumph of general relativity all the way. Perhaps in 50 years or 100 years, we'll have a better theory, or even less. That would be quantum gravity. And maybe that could be the next goal.
Yes. So another one was, how long do you think it would take to set up interplanetary telescopes? And also, please explain about interplanetary telescopes.
You mean like putting telescopes in the planets? I mean, I don't understand. Probably.
Maybe
Okay.
that's
Yeah. The first step is reachable. Is to put telescopes on the moon, and that is coming. It's coming a reality. The Chinese are already in the moon. United States wants to reach Mars. At first, they will go to the moon. I have a very esteemed friend whose name is Jack Burns. I read a paper that he wrote in the 90s, early 90s, about setting up telescopes in the moon. He's about one step now to fulfill his dream, to put telescopes in the moon. And the next step will be to put them on Mars. So we are getting there. But it looks, from the 90s until 2020 is already 30 years. It's a scientific career of a person, right? But that is the lifetime, the time that it would take to get this thing. And it is because it's very expensive to put things outside Earth. And even when Earth, it doesn't have a very strong gravitational field, but still it takes 11 kilometers per second to get out. So that is a big difficulty, but it's only a matter of time that we will begin to put telescopes elsewhere outside Earth.
So next are some set of questions from PhD aspiring students, and probably aspiring a PhD under your guidance from the question that I can make out. So what do you expect from a PhD student working under you? A doctorate student working under you?
I like independent students. I like students who push me rather than I go and push them and look for them to do their work. I like the ideal student is the one who comes with a question and said, I want to do this problem and I want you to help me. That is a perfect student for me, because he's an independent guy. He's a guy who said, I think you can help me on this. Of course, I have other problems and other projects where the students can get involved and get excited. But I think the ideal student is the one who has already a problem and wants to solve it. Not every student is like that. In my graduate studies and all the students that I have met in my career, only a handful of students are like that. But it's a great pleasure to guide a student with a lot of initiative. And the other ones, I also the ones that they don't know very much about research, but they are capable and they are curious. And I also am very happy when I give them a problem that they can solve and they find interesting. I have found other students that you have to guide them all the way. That is very tiresome. I'm 56 years old now. I don't think I have the time and the patience for a student that I have to drag and push to finish his project or her project. I had put that category only to my children, to my kids. I don't put that in that category, PhDs or master students anymore. I'm sorry, but is I have become very selective. But it's just because I'm becoming old. I think.
What, according to you, is the best approach to start research or working as a PhD student? What, according to you, is the best way?
I think is curiosity is the best thing, and ambition. Um, Nothing is wrong with ambition. I mean, you can be too ambitious, but there's nothing wrong. I would say, if a student is very ambitious and said, "I want to win the Nobel Prize," I think it's a good goal, and I think it is okay if somebody treasures that as a project in life. Maybe he or her, he or she would not achieve the goal, but in pursuing that, could become a great researcher. And that I think is very important. And the other thing is that you should be happy. I mean, in this pursuit of excellence and knowledge, happiness is very important. If you see this as a burden, it makes, if you see it as a sacrifice, it's not good to come into this because you will be unhappy at the end. So um, they used to say it in the 90s to us, you have to be crazy. And crazy in a good way, right? But you have to be absolutely convinced that you want to be here, or you want to be in the school that you choose, and there's nothing better that you want to do. That is, I think, the combination of things that you need to have in your mind. Otherwise, you will think that this is too much sacrifice. I mean, I for instance, I'm very happy talking to you today here, but I didn't sleep last night, right? And I don't get paid for these hours. And I don't see that that is a burden. I mean, in fact, I'm very happy and thrilled to be with you today here. But as I said, if was making it like, oh, I need to make this money for this time and that, and I be counting all these things, I'll be very unhappy because I would not be making enough money. But it's in the pursuit of your goals and your wishes and your dreams, all the other things come by, and that's, you need to reach. Professor Ramakrishna said equilibrium is very important, and then which you should keep your eyes in having a life and having a professional life and being happy on this way.
We know that in astronomy and astrophysics we have higher risk, we have research work, but are there some jobs also in industries? Like in industries, do we have jobs for
For
astrophysicists or astronomers?
Well, an astronomer is the same as any other researcher. You have skills that can be useful in other fields. One, in other countries, in the first world countries, right? I mean, it's one of the industries that astronomers work in is finances, for instance. And in the 90s, going into finances, like going to Wall Street in New York, meant that you could get a better salary than if you stay in academia. That was one thing. The other thing is the military. In advanced countries, they need people with certain skills of analysis, programming, physics, and you can do that. So when people ask me like what is the use of what you do, I said nothing. It's just, we just look at the stars, and I have my head in the clouds all the time. But many applications have come from astronomy. For instance, I could tell you one that is my classical example is the X-ray machines that you see in the airports now. Those X-ray machines very few people know that they come from X-ray astronomy. They developed those instruments because they needed them to take images from black holes, for instance, or binary stars and clusters of galaxies. X-rays don't go through our atmosphere, and that is very good because it protects us. So, but when you had a satellite, and the best detector that they have in the 70s was the photographic film. But how would you download the film from a satellite down to Earth? That was impossible. It is still impossible. So they developed a way to digitize the image and produce images in real time. And that's what a machine, an X-ray machine does. So the guy who invented that thing was Ricardo Giacconi, became very rich because his X-rays, his patent became really useful, and also got the Nobel Prize. And I don't think he was looking at either of those goals, but they came as he became a pioneer of X-ray astronomy. And at the time, if they asked him, what is the application, there was no application. He would not say, at one point, the security will be such that you will need to get an X-ray machine in order to promote security for people carrying guns and knives and all these things. He couldn't anticipate that. Nobody would anticipate that. But astronomy create, or science in general, create necessities that are not at this moment, nobody's thinking about them. But in a few years they could become a reality. The other one is Kepler. Kepler invented the three laws of the movement of the heavenly bodies. And if people would ask him, Kepler, what are you doing? This is studying the planets and all these things. The most important thing at that moment when Kepler lived was to save your own life, because there were wars. And this guy was thinking about, the movement of the planets and these capricious ways and all these things. So people didn't know that we will have satellites, or we will see the stars moving around the center of Milky Way, right? And they will follow the laws of Kepler. So that is the thing. I mean, you don't ask, you just want to explain something. That Kepler had a big goal. He said he wanted to read the mind of God, which is, a huge goal. But in the way, he got three laws why the way the planets behave, and they still hold even after 300 years, right?
That was some great information. And like you said, you didn't have enough sleep last night, and still you had this webinar this morning, and now you're kindly having this conversation with us. So, how do you maintain a work-life balance? It must be hard for you. How do you do that?
Well, I lost my step a few times. It's the same, one thing that I learned is life is not the same as a mathematical or physics problem. It is not like if you dedicate 8 hours a day practicing and trying to solve and all these things, you will have success in life. Life is a different kind of game. I think we learn. You learn and you try to have a balance, and but it is difficult. There are people that never achieve the balance, and I seen them. I have a few colleagues of mine that that got through divorces and all these things, but it's the same everywhere. When I look at people that work in the finances, for instance, the ones that are highly successful devote a lot of time to their business or to their craft. A pianist practices 8 hours a day to be a professional pianist. So what you need is like to surround yourself with people who understand and love what you do. And then you can have the balance. Otherwise, if they don't understand what you do, then you will be in troubles all the time. So you have to be very careful. But this applies to everyone, to the person that you choose to accompany you in this process that we call life, right?
So yes, definitely surrounding ourselves with the right set of people is the key. And
So,
do you have any closing note for our viewers that you would like to say to them?
well, all of you are students. I think you're very lucky and fortunate. I think that you should take this opportunity and embrace it as if it was the last day of your life. Probably could be the happiest time in your life. Probably you would never had an opportunity like this to devote yourself to thinking and to doing things that are interesting. So take it and enjoy it. I think that is very important, and I think is set goals that are very far, like like in 10 years. Picture yourself what you would be doing in 10 years, and try to get there. You can get distracted for a day or two, but don't forget your goals. And I think is if you take one day at a time, and little by little you get one goal today, and next and you go little by little, you could get a lot of things. So I think for a society like in Mexico or like India, I think to be a student is a privilege and a great opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Omar, for joining us today. It was very nice talking to you, and